אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך ועצץ רשעים בדרך חטאים לא יעמוד ומושב לעצים לא ישב כי מסרס אדוני חפצו וסרסו יגע יומם ולילה. והיה כעץ שסול על פלגמויים אשר פריו ייתן בעיתו ועולהו לא ייבול וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא יכן הרשעים כמוץ אשר תטפן הרוח על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט וחטאים ועדס צדיקים כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד. We're here today to pay our kavod achron to a very beloved man in our community, beloved husband and father, grandfather, great-grandfather, brother, very, very special individual, very beloved man by all. I've known Irv for over 25 years. He and Lali were devoted friends, members of the Young Israel, who loved to come to shul all the time, loved to come to all the social events, very sociable people, very much involved in the day-to-day lives of our kehillah, of our congregation. I keep finding myself saying they rather than he because they were a team, even though today we're really coming to pay our respects to Irv, but it's really the end of a tkufa, it's the end of an era, really, in terms of both Irv and Lali, who were so much a team and did so much together in terms of their personal lives and in terms of their lives in the community. I was on the phone yesterday coming back from out of town, and I mentioned to my youngest, to my son Yosef, who's learning in Eretz Yisrael now, you do remember Mr. Silber? He said, sure. I have fond memories of him sitting in the back. Yudi would bring him to the back in the room, and he always had a smile. He loved to come to shul, and my older children remember from the days back at the Hebrew Academy, right in front of the mechitza, where he would sit all the time, every Shabbos. He had such a smile. He loved so much to come to shul and to participate and be part of the shul. Irv was quiet, unassuming, somewhat opinionated. He had opinions, and he wasn't afraid to share his opinions. But he did it with a sense of tznius, with a sense of modesty. He didn't show off. He really was quiet in his own personal hanhaga, his own personal way of acting and talking, but with a tremendous sense of dignity and a sense of respect and pride. After they moved from Harvey to the apartments, Cedar and Green, so I used to come to visit them, unfortunately maybe not often enough, always felt very much at home. They always made me feel very much at home when I came to talk to them, talking about the shul, about the community, about their family, about their children, grandchildren. They had such beautiful nachas. They were so happy to be able to enjoy the nachas as much as they could. Irv was extremely devoted to Lali. Basically anything she wanted, he did. I think that was their lives. In terms of their involvement in the community, she was involved in so many different projects that she took on, and whatever she wanted to do, he was there behind her, supported her. Of course, his biggest love, I think, was the shul, whether it was being involved in communal projects toward Eretz Yisrael or things in town, but whatever Lali did, Irv was there for her and with her. But the greatest love, of course, came from their family, Jeff and Leslie, Ellie, Yudi, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. They took tremendous pride in all of their children's accomplishments every day of their lives. But I must tell you that the devotion that the children have for both Lali and now for Irv was unbelievable. Day in, day out, 7 days a week. I don't think 24/7 quite captures their Mesiras Nefesh, the dedication that they had for their father. You'd come to the hospital, you come to the nursing home, you come to the apartment, wherever you came. They were always there, tending to every single need, always, all the time. Even in the last few weeks when Irv was moved to hospice at Montefiore. Actually, I think my last visit was one of the better visits that I had, because sometimes he'd come, he could barely keep his eyes open, he could barely talk. This time he was a little bit more awake, a little bit more on the ball than he had been in the past. But again, they were always there, always attending to all of his needs, anything they could do. And the same thing was true when Lali was sick as well. Irv and Lali were true religious Zionists. The greatest thrill and love, of course, would have been to live in Eretz Yisrael. They weren't blessed to have that opportunity, but they have the opportunity to spend their eternity in Eretz Yisrael, to have kfura in Eretz Yisrael. And that meant so much to them. Even if they weren't able to make the move b'chayehem when they were alive, and they had relatives and friends in Eretz Yisrael, and that's where the Shiva will be in Eretz Yisrael, but they felt so strongly connected to Eretz Yisrael and to the Medina at least ultimately, they able to have their final rest in Eretz Yisrael. So to Jeff, Ellie, and Yudi, I know this is a difficult one. It's the end of an era. You say goodbye to not only to your mother, but also to your father. Very, very difficult, very painful. But you know, you did an unbelievable job. You really were unbelievable children. Really, really unbelievable. We can all learn a lesson in Kibbut Abba Aim from the way you acted and interacted and the love and the devotion that you showed 24/7 for your very special parents. I want to just take a few moments to read to you a very beautiful letter that your cousin Sarah Spiro sent to share some thoughts that she has about your father and, for that matter, your mother as well. I cannot begin to tell you how sad I am with the news that Ellie had shared with me the passing of your beloved father Irv. Right now my heart aches for you, and my memories of your parents could fill a book. From the moment we met, I was a young girl who was marrying into the Hartstein-Spiro family in that order. Hartstein first and then Spiro. Both of your parents were exceptionally kind and welcoming. It meant a lot. Coming into the Hartstein family was not easy on any level. Each and every one of the Hartstein sisters, and Uncle Rumi too, had their own characteristic qualities, and we were all the poorer for not having appreciated them enough. My memory clouds at the beginning of our growing friendship. When did it actually start? I know that Lala used to type Abi's college papers for him when he was at graduate school in NYU. I do remember that as a young bride, your mother gave me a recipe for macaroni, cheese, mushroom soup, and potato chip casserole that I made for many years. How's that for memory? I think that they moved back from New York to Cleveland just about the time that we got married, or thereabouts. Your father always had such a warm and wonderful smile. It matched his eyes. He was always kind, sensitive, caring, and giving. And oh, how he loved your mother. He was so handsome and debonair. He was always dressed well, and he made sure his wife and children were as well. Mom was a real beauty, and her voice was the murmurings of angels. When Mom sang, the sound rose from her soul. There is a tape that Avi recently found that has your mom and dad singing on it together. It also has your grandfather, our beloved Uncle Hugo, singing on it too, along with Avi's father and Shmuley and Earl too, and maybe Uncle Emil as well. It is something for the ages. Your mom and dad were really quite a team. Mom didn't drive, so she would make the calls, order the things she needed, prepare the mishloach manos, and Dad would run the errands, do the shopping, and deliver the things she had prepared. They shared a common love of music and truly created a symphony of sounds and melodies that harmonized the actions and reactions that helped design their unique family and home. They were extremely supportive of each other. Dad was so very proud of each and every one of you, to the point that he almost burst a button when he talked about the various jobs, awards, promotions, and ceremonies you each had been involved with. When Ellie was about to receive the award from her school, I think that everyone in the family, including all the out-of-town relatives, knew about it. Dad would call me when Yudi had created a special program and was playing a performance, just in case you happened to want to stop in. And I know Jeff was afraid to mention any promotion for fear the entire community would know how much he was making. And really, how many times did we have to watch the wedding? I think he knew Yehuda Rothner's speech by heart. Irv had a work ethic that was to be envied. He worked long and hard, and his priority was always his family. His name was not on letterheads, and he shied away from publicity for anything. He was strongly committed to his faith and so proud of his family for continuing his legacy. He was a proud and loyal member of Young Israel, and davened there all the time. Irv was a remarkable son, husband, father, grandfather, brother, and uncle. And he was a great friend. There was no one in Cleveland who went to Israel who did not have a small package that Irv would send to his Israeli family. He was truly committed to helping in any way he could. He was extremely generous and always did things quietly without fanfare. He did not like being in the limelight, something his children have inherited. Irv cared about people. He was a man of few words, and he worried about others. In recent years, he would always ask me about our little Chayla, Chavi's baby, and who would ask me, how is Chaya Blima doing? And just writing brings tears to my eyes. I think it is because he was so genuine and so very sweet with his concern. And he told me he davens for her each and every day. I think that's what makes me so sad now. I found it so comforting to know that she was in Dad's tefillos. It really showed who and what he was all about. As the years progressed, so did the aging. Dad became more dependent on his children, who truly stepped up to the plate in every way possible. First, the monumental move from Harvey to Milton, then the move to Menora Park, and then to Montefiore. And each stage was accepted with grace. His children stood by his and Lolly's side each and every step of the way. Yudi would take out Dad for lunch, and Irv would wear his signature cap, always with a little tilt on the side. And he enjoyed socializing and schmoozing, keeping up with what was going on in the community. If you asked him how he was always, the answer it would be, could be better, yet he never complained. Yudi would always take him to Minyan each and every day, to Shul and Shabbos, and on outings whenever he was up to it. If he had to be hospitalized, his children were at his bedside. He was never left alone. Yudi was there days, and I know that if Ellie had slept in her own bed for more than 2 nights in a row, that was unusual. In recent months, she had slept in Dad's room with unparalleled devotion each and every night. She did the same for Mom. Ellie was her parents' champion. She maneuvered the appointments, the medications, and the healthcare aides. Yudi was a soldier who guarded and followed all the orders to a T, and if Jeff was a general who carried out the responsibility and guaranteed its success. It took an army to make all this work, and the 3 of you were it. You must take comfort in knowing that you did everything humanly and superhumanly possible to ensure that both Mom and Dad were given the best love and care possible, because each and every one of you are the best. Leslie has acted with love and compassion, and the grandchildren have learned all of this. Jeffrey could not have done this without Leslie's encouragement and support. I know of no one who has done more for her parents than the 3 of you have done. Your kibbud av v'em has been beyond measure, and the nachas your parents had from each and every one of you is remarkable. It is a gift that only you could give, and you did it with such respect and love. Please know that I'm hugging you with my heart, and that I am with you in spirit in every sense of the word. I am grateful that Dad had the dignity and peace that he deserved these last week, and that it was something Montefiore was able to provide. I will miss Irv in so many ways, for he certainly represented so much of what our family was about. Dad had a certain sadness about him after Lolly passed away. This Shabbos Chanukah, your parents will be together again for the first time in almost 3 years. I think they just missed each other much too much to be alone, and Dad will be happy to see her again. And I know he will continue to daven for our little Chaya Blima too. With love, Sarah. Jeff?
Thank you, Rabbi, for those kind words, and thank you, Sarah, for that wonderful letter, and appreciate you all coming. My brother Yudi asked me to read this letter on his behalf. I was fortunate to have the zchut to help take care of you and Mommy when you both moved into the apartments. When Mommy passed, I felt Hashem's presence of granting me the nechama to focus on you so I would be strong and not fall apart. I know Mommy would have wanted that. Since Mommy's passing, we were inseparable. Wherever you wanted to go, I took you. You loved going to shul during the week, and especially on Shabbat to your shul at the Young Israel of Cleveland. You loved going to the Peter Lewis Aquatic Center at Myers for lunch for several years. I have memories of you and Mommy coming to my school performance, where I would accompany on the piano children from the Cleveland Hebrew Schools, Fuchs Mizrahi School, and the Hebrew Academy of Cleveland. In fact, this time 2 years ago on Hanukkah, I brought you to the Hanukkah school performance at Fuchs, with the Fuchs students at the Senior Center for Soviet Jews that I play for. You really enjoyed those students. This past summer at Menora Park, at my last performances you attended, they asked me to fill in as an accompanist for their Oneg Erev Shavuot program, which Ellie's brought you to, as well as to hear the Menora Park singers. I remember seeing you really enjoy this. You appreciated and loved music like Mommy did. When you entered the hospice phase at Maltz Montefiore, I recited the brachot with you with your talit and tefillin when you were up to it. You loved when people would see photos of your grandchildren, and especially your great-grandchild, Itai Amikam Rothner. I would show you Facebook photos of your nieces, nephews, great-nieces and nephews, and your great-great-nieces and nephews whom you loved. You and Mommy were amazing parents to me. I'm so grateful to Hashem that he granted both of you to me. As a close friend of mine told me, your dad was your best friend. You and Mommy understood me and respected me. I feel lost without you both. I miss you and I love you. Your loving son, Yiddi. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to publicly thank my brother and sister for taking care of both our parents. While I wasn't in Cleveland on a daily basis, Leslie and I always knew that they were in very good hands. My sister's going to go into greater details, but I just wanted to give you an overview of who my father was. My father had a very simple name, Irving Silber, no middle name. In Hebrew, it was Yitzchak Isaac ben Avram. Even his middle name in Hebrew was the same as his first name. Very simple. But he was far from a simple man. Throughout his life, he accumulated many other names based on the roles that he played for all the different people in his life. My father was an accountant and spent most of his working years as a controller for a scrap metal firm here in Cleveland. While the word controller may sound a bit scary, in this case it had a lot of positive connotations. No matter what was going on in his office, he stayed calm, cool, and collected. He was the reliable one, the one who stayed in control and made sure that things got done. He took care of many people in his office like they were his own family. My father was a son, a very loving son. He was the middle child and the only boy. While I obviously did not know my dad when he was a child, I did get to see him in action when he was an adult, and the kibbud av va'em that he showed his parents when they were older. Even though he was in Cleveland and they were in New York, we went there very often when we were kids so his parents could get to know their grandchildren, especially as they got older and were too ill to travel. My dad was a shining example to his three children in how to take care of and honor one's elderly parents. I hope we lived up to his expectations. My father was a brother, a very special brother. He was flanked by his older sister Helen, alaa shalom, and his younger sister Lorraine, who should live and be well. But he was more than just a brother. He became a surrogate father to both of them after their parents passed away, happily sharing in their smachot and also helping them through their not-so-easy times. They both counted on him, and he was always there for them. My father was also known as Uncle Irving. He had 7 nephews who got married and brought him 7 nieces, and too many grandnephews and nieces and great-grandnephews and nieces to count. In speaking with many of them over the past few days, they all remarked how special he was, and losing him was more than just losing an uncle. He loved them like his children, sometimes even more than his children when my siblings and I were acting up as kids. In his later years, he became known as Grandpa Irving. While we didn't see him every day, our kids knew he was in their lives. Whether in sending gifts or as anyone who ever visited my parents saw the vast number of pictures that he had of our children, Ariel, Ricky, and Jonathan, and more recently Ariel's husband Yedidja and their son Itai. You could barely see the wall behind the montage of photos. Even in his last days in hospice, he spent his last waking moments looking at pictures and videos of all of them and would break out in a smile. To his 3 children and for more than 30 years to my wife Leslie, he was dad or daddy. We didn't grow up rich, live in a fancy house, or drive in a fancy car, but we never lacked for anything. If we ever wanted something, we got it, no questions asked. I grew up a sports fan, and I can't say that my dad shared that passion with me, but if I ever wanted to go to a game, he got me tickets. And if he couldn't take me himself, he would find somebody in the community who was a sports fan to take me to make sure that I wouldn't miss out on that. When I face a situation now as a father, I typically ask myself how my father would have handled it, and I usually figure out the right answer. To my mother, alaa shalom, he was a very loving husband. While they were different people, they complemented one another. My mom loved to perform publicly, and my dad certainly did not. But he loved watching her sing. They spent over 57 years together, and while the last few years in both of their lives were not easy ones, they had each other. While his passing is hard on us, I can get some joy in knowing that he and my mother are finally reunited. So while my father had a simple name, he certainly did not live a simple life. A controller, a son, a brother, an uncle, a grandfather, a father, and a husband. My dad lived a lot in the nearly 93 years he was with us. And he left a lasting impression on many people over that time. May his neshama have an aliyah.
Ellie?
In the last few months, many of us have gathered in this room way too often. Each time I was here, I knew it would bring me closer to when I would have to sit in the family room, as I knew my dad's situation was compromised. Each time I heard people eulogize their loved ones, I hoped that I would be able to convey who my father was as well as they did. I will try to give a glimpse of who this special man was for those of you who didn't know him. And for those of you who did, I hope I will do him justice and give him the dignity and respect he so well deserved. Irving Silber, Yitzchak Isaac ben Avraham Berivka, was born on December 16, 1924, to Adolf and Regina, two Hungarian tailors by trade, in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, New York. He was the only son, with his sister Helen, Zichrona Livracha, 3 years his senior, and Lorraine, she should live and be well, 10 years younger. His parents came out before the war and brought his grandparents and two of his father's brothers out too. It is in this childhood home where my father first saw the mitzvah, the good deed, of kibbud av va'em, honoring one's parents. It was being fulfilled to the highest degree. He didn't know it then, but this would be the legacy he left for us to undertake, and we would do it because this was in our genes. He witnessed the love and respect his parents treated their parents, and in turn, he would do the same for his own and my mother's family too. His parents taught him so well, and we were honored to carry on the tradition. My Aunt Lorraine described their home as one with a lot of laughter, and I believe it. They all had a great time with each other and were very close and had wonderful senses of humor. My dad attended Yeshiva Torah Vodaas in Williamsburg and later graduated as an accounting major from Pace University. Flat feet and bad eyes kept him at a desk job during World War II, stationed stateside. Some of us are lucky enough to have gotten those passed down. His friends growing up, and who he kept close ties with throughout his life, sounded to me like the cast straight out of The Little Rascals. Spunky, Dottie, Fat Sam, Zippy, Miss Windy, and then the regulars, Mike, Helen, Bernice, Dave, and Willie, just to name a few. They all showed up for Jeffrey's bar mitzvah, as my parents made it in the Catskill Mountains, to make it easier for them and all the New York relatives to get to. My parents chartered a bus from Cleveland so everyone from Cleveland could come too. It was a great party which people spoke about for a long time to come. Someone who attended even just recently mentioned it to me, reminiscing fondly, and that was 42 years ago. My dad, to me, was the glue that held all those friends together over the years. The phone was his lifeline, and he kept in touch with everyone. And we always heard, "Oish, I gotta call this one," or "Oish, I gotta call that one before Yontif." His friends were like family to him, which brings me now to his nephews, his flesh and blood family. My dad has 7 nephews, thank God. Each one of them and their wives and families were like his own. His first 3, Larry, Buddy, and Mitchell, who we thank for coming and mean so much to him, from my Aunt Helen and Uncle Morris, Zichronam Livracha, were so dear to him, and he took in their wives as his nieces right away. My dad would mix up our baby stories with theirs, and we knew how to finish them, he told them so often. My Aunt Lorraine and her husband, my Uncle Artie, who should have a complete refuah and live and be well, made Aliyah from Cleveland in 1970. But the question everyone always asked in and out of the family was, did they really make Aliyah? My dad sent packages a few times a week from lists Lorraine sent, and he fulfilled them all and then some. The best brother ever. Meches, the tax office in Rehovot, threw a party when Uncle Irving came to visit. They knew him so well and probably kept them in business. My cousin Aryeh texted when he heard about my dad, and I quote, "A long time ago, I introduced him to my friend's brother since everyone knew Uncle Irving. The friend said, 'So you are the legend.' And Aryeh agreed, and so do we all." My Aunt Lorraine's 4 sons, Shimon, Dov, Aryeh, and Mordechai, their wives, children, and now grandchildren, were loved just as much, even though they were far away. These 7 boys from his sisters, now grown men, my father worried about just like he worried about us. He loved them all so much, and they him, as they kept in touch always. There was no one like Uncle Irving. Now, what brought my dad to Cleveland, or what dragged my dad to Cleveland? That would be my mom, Lali, Zichrona Livracha. They were fixed up while my dad came to visit Lorraine and Artie, who had moved to Cleveland. My Hungarian grandmother and her Hungarian sisters all agreed that he was wonderful because he was good-looking, spoke fluent Hungarian, and had good teeth. It was a perfect match, and they were. They were married on November 3rd, 1957, which this past November would have been their 60th anniversary. They lived in Brooklyn for a bit, and then Jeffrey came along, and when they were pregnant with me, they moved to Cleveland, and Yudi was soon to follow. Though my dad was less than thrilled to leave New York, he knew that would make my mom happy, and that was what their marriage was mostly about, making her happy. He took care of her through her many health challenges and was the rock for our family. We hit the lottery as fathers go. And my mother wasn't too shabby either. And when Jeffrey got married to my sister-in-law Leslie, she became one of us to him immediately, never buying my mom or me something without getting something for her too, making sure she felt welcome. She was his daughter as much as I was, and treated her the same, as if she was born to be a Silber, and she was. And he was indebted to her for providing him with his second three loves of his life, his grandchildren Ariel, Ricky, and Jonathan. A day would never go by without him asking, did you speak to the baby? Did you talk to the kids? He loved being around kids, and they made him so happy. It even extended to the neighbors on the block, in which he raised many of them. He brought them clothing and toys as if they were his own grandchildren. Ariel and her husband, Yadija, gave my dad no bigger gift than his first great-grandchild, Itai. They came to visit my dad this summer, and he couldn't stop looking at him. 92 years between them. It was a sight to see. I showed a recent video of Itai to him, and all my dad could say was, so cute. This is what life was about for my dad, his friends and keeping in touch, his family and making sure they had everything they needed and keeping them safe the best way he knew how. We never lacked for anything. In fact, we got more probably than we deserved. He always would say, if you like it, buy two. And I would say, why would I buy two, Daddy? And he would say, you never know. The love he had for us is hard to put into words. He was our fierce protector in anything we did and our fierce cheerleader in all we set out to accomplish. It takes a village to raise a child, they say. Well, I'm here to tell you it takes a village to take care of your parents. And this village sits in front of me today. So many of you have helped our family throughout the years, supporting us through our family's health issues at one time or another, but especially these last almost 10 years when our parents' health began to decline. We thank so many of you for being there and helping us take care of our parents. But my parents made it easy, as they were so compliant with any decision or move we had to make. And this we thank them for immensely, as it made our lives easier as theirs became more complicated. Jeff and Leslie especially, Daddy wouldn't have made it to just 6 days short of his 93rd birthday without your help and guidance, and along with Hashem's help, he did. So thank you. On behalf of Jeffrey, Leslie, and myself, it is Yudi we need to thank the most. You have put your life on hold to take care of Daddy these last few months. The two of you are literally one soul. You are so much like him in the way you care for so many people's welfare, and we are glad Daddy gave you that trait. You made these last few years of him being alone not lonely. How can we thank you? We will just love you like he did, unconditionally. I wasn't there when my dad died, and I couldn't believe it. Jeffrey came in that morning, and I left to gather some things, and I missed it. But my dad didn't want me there, I soon came to realize. Someone pointed out he was ever your protector, and this was evident in his last job of protecting me as he left this world. Or he just wanted his favorite child with him. My dad loved opera and cantorial or chazanish music. That was a huge part of his life and something he shared in common with my mom. It also became part of his death as a chazanish music CD played on while he took his last breaths. Whenever I would leave my dad's apartment or wherever he was, I would say, I'll be back. And in turn, he would say, don't forget. So, Daddy, I just want to tell you that we love you and thank you for being in our world the best father and role model there ever was. And I promise we will never forget.
Ask Moshe Lovinger to come up to please do the Kil Malei Rachman, and please rise.
El Molei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hametzel Veimenucha Nechano Al Kanefei Asher Chiyeno B'malos Kedoshim Uteharim Kezohar Maroroki Amazirim Ese Nishmas Yitzchok Isaac Ben Avrom Sheholach Leolamo Bavur
שינחנו מתפללים ביד אזכורת ישמעו עשו בגן עדן תהיה מנוחתו לכן בעל רחמים יסתירהו בססר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים עשה נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלו עשו וינוח בשלום בשלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן.
You may be seated. The Kfura will be in the Eretz HaChaim Cemetery in Beit Shemesh sometime tomorrow evening. Don't know the exact times yet. Do you know that yet? No. 8-ish? Somewhere in the 8-ish range tomorrow night. Shiva will be observed in Yerushalayim. The address, which is out on the website, is 8 Helitz in Baka, apartment 5, which will be starting tomorrow night, Wednesday night, through Thursday morning, through Wednesday morning in Yerushalayim.